Assalamualaikum and very salam sejahtera to our friend. Today we're gonna present our group project, which is unemployment and classical theory in Malaysia, 2010 until 2019. We're gonna start with our first group member, is Razi. Okay, Mr. Razi, you can start now.
Okay, Hamza, thank you. So we will start with the introduction. According to Kamus Dewan 4th edition 2010, about the unemployment is where the person does not have a job due to the difficulty to get a job or as a result of a job cuts by the government and due to weather conditions that do not allow any work done. And next. Okay, the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the unemployment is classified into two different groups, namely known as active unemployment and inactive unemployment. Active unemployment are categorized as people who do not work during the reference week but are willing to work and actively seek employment during the week, while the inactive unemployment are defined as those who do not seek employment during the reference week because they believe there is no job or are not qualified. And then those who might be looking for a job, if not for illness or bad weather. And those waiting for job application answers, and those who have been looking for a job before the reference week. Next. International Labour Organization, ILO, open unemployment is someone who belongs to working age population group for a certain period of time and is willing to accept a job as well as looking for a job. Half-fourth unemployment is someone who works as a laborer, an employee and self-employed, who for a certain period of time is forced to work less than the normal working hours, who is still looking for another job or is still willing to look for another or additional job. Next. This is the formula for unemployment rate. Unemployment is equals to unemployed people over labor force times 100. According to many economists, a country with an unemployment rate of 4% or less shows that the country has achieved full employment. Next. This is the Malaysian Economic Indicator. In 2019, the unemployment rate in Malaysia was at approximately 3.38%. Malaysia's unemployment is relatively low and stable at around 3%, which means the population is experiencing close to full employment. The country reached its lowest level of unemployment in 2014 with a rate of 2.85%. Malaysia's vibrant economy is considered one of the strongest in Southeast Asia. Together with years of political stability, it has been supporting such a low unemployment rate and good growth rates each year.
Thank you, Mr. Razi. Next is our next presentation is Miss Gloria. You can start now, Miss Gloria.
Thank you, Hamza. So the next is unemployment pace in Malaysia. There is four of it. The first pace is unemployment rate declined steadily from 1970 to 1983. This was attributed to the economic transformation that had taken place where we saw the secondary sector, which is manufacturing and agriculture. The second phase is in the period of 1983 to 1988, when the unemployment rate scored from 5.5 to 8.6%. During this period, Malaysia was experiencing relatively low internal and external demand, and this was prevalently in the manufacturing sector. The third place, which is taking place in 1989 to 1987, the economy recovering from the recessions, the employment rate declined from 7.8% to 2.5% in 1997, which is obviously indicated rapid economic growth accompanied by the shift in labor utilizations. The fourth and last phase is seen to be the most challenging periods. This when the outbreak of ASEAN financial crisis in 1998 lead to increase in unemployment rates to 4.9% with retrenchment of workers and recruiting of firms taking place. Next, we're going to talk about type of unemployment, which is we have three. One is structural, fractional, and cyclical. Structural unemployment, this is because there is a less educated job provision is in less educated for people because there is a disparity between the skill necessary for a job and the skill of unemployment workers. Second, fractional unemployment. This is because of a period between job and unemployed workers when workers is seeking for a better job and a new environment. Cyclical unemployment are also known as a deficient demand unemployment occur whenever there is not enough aggregate demand in the economy to provide job for everyone who need a job, which is people who are seeking for a job. Next, we're going to talk about unemployment influence and effect to the economic growth. The first one is unemployment can lead to stress emotionally and mentally. It may cause a result of violence and in turn affect the relationship or lead to increased crime. Reduce in aggregate demand and economic growth. There will also be lack of demand as the people unemployed are saving. And unemployment affect the economy in way the most people do not visually see. If more people are unemployed, less people pay tax and don't have money to spend. Some of the well-known effects of unemployment on the economy are reduced spending power of the employed, unemployment financially costs and spending power. The effect of unemployment on social issues, which is we have, for example, it lead to family distributions, suicide, health problems, drug addiction, malnutrition, poor prenatal care, school dropout, racial and ethnic antagonism, and other possible social problems.
Thank you, Miss Gloria. Next presentation will go to Mr. Harold. Mr. Harold, you can start now.
Okay, next we go to section 3, which is the theory of classical economics. Classical economics, which is English School of Economics, thought that originated during the late 18th century with Adam Smith, which is in the picture, who was born in 1723 and died in 1790. Adam Smith reached maturity in the works of David Ricardo and also John Stuart Mill. The theories of the classical school, which dominated economic thinking in Great Britain until about 1870. It is about 1 century for it to reach the Great Britain. Next, the classical economics focus on economic growth and economic freedom, stressing laissez-faire ideas and also free competition. Classical economics have many of the fundamental concepts and principles of classical economics were set forth in Smith's An Inquiry Info the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, the book that he wrote on 1776, strongly opposed to the mercantilist theory and policy that had prevailed in Britain since the 16th century. Smith argued that the free competition and free trade, neither hampered nor coddled by government, would best promote a nation's economic growth. As he saw it, The entire community benefits most when each of its members allows members follow his or her own self-interest. Smith also demonstrated how the apparent chaos of competitive buying and selling is transmuted into an orderly system of economic cooperation that can meet individuals' needs and also increase their wealth. He also observed that this cooperative system occurs through the process of individual choice as opposed to the central direction. Next, we will see how the classical unemployment is explained in a graph. The term classical unemployment refers to the effect real wages and the market clearing wage has on the availability of jobs. Classical unemployment increases when real wages rise relative to the market clearing wage. Classical unemployment occurs when the wages a worker is willing to accept, which is the real wages, is in excess of those an employer is willing to pay, which is the market clearing wage. By definition, the market clearing wage is the equilibrium wage. That is to say, it is the wage at which the supply of labor is equal to the demand of labor. The classical approach assumes that markets behave as described by the idealized supply and demand model. The labor market is seen as though it were a single static market characterized by perfect competition, spot transaction, and institutions for double auction bidding. We assume that every unit of labor service is the same, and every worker in this market will get exactly the same wage. The equilibrium wage in this example is WE, and the equilibrium quantity of labor is supplied is at QE. Where the market is free to adjust, there is no involuntary unemployment. Everyone who wants a job at the going wage gets one. At the market clearing wage, which is W1, the demand for labor is exactly equal to the supply of labor, and classical unemployment will be zero. When real wages, W2, are in excess to the market clearing wage, W1, classical unemployment is greater than zero. For example, a business is willing to pay 25,000 ringgit per year to workers on their assembly line. At this rate of wages, the value of worker brings to the business is in excess of 25,000, which allows the company to remain profitable. However, unemployed workers in the area are not willing to make less than 30,000 ringgit per year when working on the assembly line. Since the real wage workers are willing to accept, which is W2, 30,000 ringgit, is higher than the wages the business is willing to pay, W1, 25,000 ringgit, classical unemployment exists.
Thank you, Mr. Harold. And then last part is discussion and critics. This classical employment theory is not fully followed by employment situation in Malaysia. Why? Whereas classical theory considers the demand and supply of labor is always balanced equilibrium because prices are flexible. But in reality, labor market is far from equilibrium as wages are never flexible, so demand and supply are almost never uncommon. A number of employed often occur. Another reason is classical economics assert that economy are self-correcting and function best with minimal government intervention. But in Malaysia, our government are really involved either directly or indirectly in combating unemployment through various planned programs such as the new economic policy NEP or and scheme latihan Satu Malaysia SLAM. Critics of classical theoretical suggest that if we follow the logic, then we can be argued that reducing unemployment can be successfully achieved by reducing wages back to the theoretical market clearing rate. However, there is objection to this. Firstly, reducing wage rates may be difficult to achieve in practice. Secondly, reducing wages is likely to lead to falling spending and reduction in economic activity with less employment. Thirdly, free market do not always arrive at the socially optimal level of employment and wages, such as where monopolies are free to set low wages and employment, or where imperfect information exists in labor market. Finally, market force do not necessarily operate in the public sector, whereas the wages set by government and government control pay settlement organization. In other words, there is not equivalent free market equilibrium which rate against which to the make comparison. This is person who against unemployment classical theory. It's John Maynard Keynes. Keynes reject the classical conclusion of full employment in capitalist economy. The worldwide depreciation of the 1930s give birth the Keynesian economics. There is entire capitalist world who now experience massive unemployment problem. Keynes now forcefully argued that capitalist economy can never reach full unemployment. According to Keynes, full unemployment situation is assured as astrological coincidence. All right. This is conclusion. Our topic today is conclusion. Unemployment in Indonesia is still under control between 2010 until 2019, which is below 4%. The first unemployment early to 70 until era 20. Many effort has been made by government to further reduce the rate unemployment in Indonesia. This effort is very important to avoid the problem that occurred as a result of unemployment and hinder the development of our country progress. I think that's all our presentation today. Thank you. Enjoy the video. Thank you. Bye. Off. Cut.